Hey everybody, and welcome to Bits of Board, where we're talking board games, miniatures, cards, and dice. My name's Michael, and today we are checking out a game by the name of AuZtralia. Now, this is a Martin Wallace game, so it's got a little bit of resource management, a little bit of economics, a little bit of trains, but a whole lot of Cthulhu. What? This is his sequel to A Study in Emerald. The restorationists have driven back Cthulhu and all of his beings, and they've gone and hid off in the Australian outback somewhere. I don't know, it's crazy. But there is a game here, and I am so keen to show it off. So we're going to start this vid by sort of giving you the introduction, taking you through the player board, the main board, and then we're going to have a couple of game turns. And I'm just purposely going to throw a couple of things in there so you get a really good indication of the vibe of this game. And then we'll come back after that, have a bit of a chat about it, and you can see whether or not it's a game you want to get out there and try and find to play. All right, guys, let's get stuck in. All right, guys and gals, here we are all set up for a game of AuZtralia. Over here, we've got a bunch of cards and stuff floating around that we're going to utilize throughout the game. And over here, I've set up our player boards just so we can keep track of what the heck is going on. This whole game takes place on those player boards and this gigantic map of Southeast Australia. Now, setup is completely randomized, but I've gone through that behind the scenes so you don't have to deal with it. It's actually pretty quick and pretty intuitive, but I gotta say, it's not that fun to film or fun to watch. So this game is all about exploration, elimination, and, you know, building some farms, I guess. Now, it does have a fairly decent economy system behind it, but there is also a war game nipping at its heels. Basically, this game is a race against the clock. All the actions that players will select throughout the game will have a time value associated with it. So for example, if the red player, who is going to go first, selects an action that will cost 3 time, he's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then the green player would go next. And let's say he chooses an action that is only 1 time. Boom, he moves down the track. Then yellow, being the last player on the track, will take a go. Let's say they too only spend 1 time. Boom, they land on top of green, and because they are the highest visible token in that particular stack, they are going to get another go. Yep, pretty simple there. If you've played Patchwork, if you've played Rocky Road a la mode, you know what we're doing here. Now, I'll go through all those actions and stuff very shortly, but let me tell you how this game is going to work. Basically, I'd say it's split into 2 phases. The preparation phase and the holy shit, Cthulhu is going to kill me phase. The preparation phase lasts until all players cross over this time space number 22. After they do that, Cthulhu is going to awaken and his old ones are going to swarm the board looking for all of the farms that you put down, looking to pretty much ruin your entire day. The game will continue on with players taking turns with Cthulhu to make their way through the entire turn track. Once everyone passes at number 53 in that bottom right hand side here, the game is over. Every non-blighted farmy place is going to be worth 2 victory points. Every phosphate, which is one of the resources, the white one here, that you have will be worth 3 victory points. You might gain a couple of bonuses from cards that you've picked up throughout the game. And hopefully you've taken out a couple of the old ones in the process. Each one of these guys will be worth a couple of points as well. Now, just like players, Cthulhu will also be earning victory points. Each revealed old one tile, currently all of these are unrevealed tiles, will be worth the number of victory points that they've got on them. So here's one of the level 1 tiles that I haven't placed. As you can see here, oh, that is an empty one. Here we go. Here's another one. We have the pyramid tile here. It is worth 3 victory points at the end of the game. So if there's one of those on the table that we haven't managed to destroy, that's worth 3 points to Cthulhu himself. Now here's where it gets mental. Any unrevealed tile that we have remaining on the board will be worth double its victory points. Oh my goodness. So that changes this game from a military economic kind of sim, well, sim, I use that term loosely. It turns it into an exploration game. Honestly, You're going to save a bunch of points by just flipping over all of these tiles and not actually destroying them. So that is certainly something to keep in mind. Finally, for every farm that Cthulhu has blighted, that will be 1 victory point to him as well. Yes, it's a crazy looking game. So let me give you the quick tour. You've seen the time track, we've got the map here, and that contains a number of level 1 Great Old One tiles, a number of level 2 and level 3, and they get more difficult the higher that number is. We've spawned a bunch of resources. We've got gold, which we're going to use to purchase military units, and that we're going to use to take actions that we have previously selected. We've got coal and iron tokens. We're going to need these to spread our railway line across the land. Yes, it's a railway game. And then we've got the sulfur, the big white tokens there. And if you pick one of those up, you're actually going to take a gold token as well. But like I mentioned before, that will score you 3 victory points at the end of the game. Now, each player has their port placed on the map there, and that is going to be their starting location from which they can place their railways, and basically you're going to want to protect them, because when those old ones wake up, they are going to be coming for you super quickly. Now, down the bottom left here, let me just zoom in. Here we've got our military units that we can purchase. We can place infantry, armored cars, artillery, armored trains, and airships here. And each of them has a cost associated. Usually you can only purchase 1 per turn. So here, the airship will cost you $4, the train $4, the artillery $5. But over here with the infantry, you can see in that just top right there, can you see? Yes, you can. You can purchase 2 of those guys at 1 gold apiece. Now they've got a couple of stats floating around. The number in the bottom left of their token indicates their range. That is how far away from the railway they can attack. The number in the bottom right is their armor value. That's the number of damage each token can take before being destroyed. Now we've got similar stuff over the bottom right. Here we can see some of the more powerful old ones that we may come across. We have our loyalists, our Shoggoth and Cthulhu there. Cthulhu is worth 12 victory points to the killer at the end of the game, and also has 15 health points that we have to shave off. But because we have multiple players in the game, sometimes damage may be scored by either player, in which case they will gain a victory point per damage given once the monster is destroyed. Hopefully that makes sense. Down here we've got a little movement randomizer, which we may need. We'll see. But yeah, that is about it. Actually, let's just take a really quick look at the hex tiles before we move over to the player boards. Yeah, really quickly worth mentioning that there are 3 different types of terrain. We've got the coastal terrains where we can place our corn farms. We've got the hills where we may place our cattle farms. And we've got the outback regions where we may place our sheep farms. Now these guys have got a couple of other rules that mainly relates to setup. We can't spawn resources in coastal tiles. We can't spawn great old ones in either the coastal tiles or the hills. And some of the coastal tiles are eligible for the initial placement of the player's ports, and that's indicated by the little anchor symbol on those tiles. Yeah, I think that is it. Let's head to the player boards and finish off this intro, and then let's get playing. All right, here we have Yellow's player board, and this is made up of a number of bits and pieces, but all of which I think make perfect sense, so this is kind of cool. We've got our supply of railway line tokens here, and these are limited. Should we run out, we are screwed. We've got our farm tokens over here, 1 for each of the 3 different types that we may place. And then we've got our warehouse over here with a couple of starting resources. We've got 4 gold, 2 coal, and 2 iron to play with. Next, we've got our little HQ area where we place all of our action cubes. And should we need to place more than 5 action cubes, we've actually got an action token here which represents 5 of these cubes, yes. Now, scattered along the top of the board here, we have all of the actions that we may take. So here we have 2 different placement locations where we may place our railway lines. The top one here costs 2 time, and we may place the railway line in either the coastal regions or the outback regions. The more expensive one costs 3 time. We may place through the hills as well. We have 2 gathering placement locations here. Each one of those will cost us 1 time, but we may steal all of the resources of one particular type from an area that we have our railway line entering. Yeah. Over here, we've got our recruit help placement location where we can take one of the personalities or the special kind of powers from the game. Actually, let's have a quick look at what's available right now. As a part of setup, you're actually going to shuffle these up and deal out 5 that are available immediately. I'll just quickly go through what these guys are. So we have Boris Krupo, who has a persistent effect, so not a one-time use. Your armored train units can take 4 damage before they are eliminated, so that gives them a bonus point of health, which could be super useful. Alanza Castro, whenever an old one attacks one of your farms, it suffers 2 damage. General Takanishi, eliminate 1 military unit to inflict 2 damage. Agent Davies, reveal 2 old one tiles of your choice and take 2 victory points. That is a one-time use, as is General Takanishi's. And then we have Alexander Proust, who has a persistent effect. Your armored car units can take 3 damage before they're eliminated. Again, that's just an additional point of health. Now, the order in which these guys are placed out is kind of important because occasionally Cthulhu is going to assassinate these guys, which means the guys at the end are at a greater risk of being killed than the ones that have just been dealt. All right, so we can recruit help, sweet. We can also place farms, and per 1 action, so when we select this action, we place a little cube in there, and then we will spend 1 time point per farm placed, but we may only place 1 farm of each type. So we can place 1 corn, 1 sheep, and 1 cattle. That'll cost us 3 time to do it, and we're going to take 1 gold for each farm placed, so that's really cool. Over here, we've got our import and export ability. This allows us to, I guess, trade resources that we've already got for gold, or we can take resources from out of nowhere. The next one here, we have attack, and this is going to cost a number of time units equal to the number of different unit types we bring to the battle. So for an example here, let's say we take, 4 infantry into battle. That is going to cost us 1 unit of time because we only have 1 type of unit. However, if we took all 4 infantry and 1 airship, that will cost us 2 units of time. And the reason you might want to do this is because some enemies are more susceptible to damage from certain unit types. So it pays to be diverse when you're taking on, enemies and stuff, but it will cost you a ton more time to get everyone there. There is a bit of a trade-off. Now, the last action that we may take is this one here. It'll cost us 1 time, and with that action, we may recover all of the action cubes that we've spent. And this is important because, let's say I want to take, the build military I didn't actually explain the military units one. I guess that's self-explanatory. Let's explain it now. I'm going to place 1 of my action cubes in the build military units thing. And with that, I can, purchase any 1 unit type that's shown on my expeditionary force section here, or I could buy 2 infantry at $1 a piece. Anyway, let's say I do that, and at a later turn, I come back around, and I want to do that again. Well, I can still chuck a cube in there, but first I've got to spend 1 gold per cube already in there. So the first time I take this action again, it'll cost me a gold. The second time I take this action again, it'll cost me 2 gold. So it's kind of important to manage your cubes, but the idea is that you don't want to be spending every second turn recovering your cubes, so you've got to diversify your actions a little bit, or at least you should anyway. Now that's pretty much it for the player board. We've got a couple of other areas floating around. We've got the barracks down here. This is where we're going to keep all of our purchased infantry and armored cars and all that stuff. We've got the expeditionary force section here, and this is where we're going to place our units that we're sending into battle. And then we've got our sanity tokens there, and you'll see those in action as we, go into combat. That's it though. Let's head to the board and get started. Let us begin with player Red. Now, Red's got a fairly healthy number of resources hanging around, but he's also got a bunch of old one tokens nearby. So I think he wants to make a couple of dollars, buy some infantry, and get fighting. So let's begin that. We'll start off by purchasing some railway track. Now, we're going to use the one that goes through the hills. So this is going to cost us 3 units of time. 1, 2, 3. And it will also cost us 1 coal and 1 iron resource. There they go. I'll turf them to the stockpile. And now we may place 2 of our railway tokens on the map. And I'm thinking let's extend to the north. 1 and 2. No need to play it safe just yet. These guys aren't going to be waking up too soon. And it's certainly pretty important to venture off into the outback. All right, next we have our green player. And I'll tell you what, they're going to be doing something very similar, except they're not going to be using the expensive track option because they don't need to go through any hills just yet. So let's head north. It's going to cost 2 time points, 1 coal and 1 iron, and then bang, let's get up there to the northeast. All right, finally yellow, and he has an absolute treasure trove of resources. He, of course, will be purchasing a line as well. 2 time, coal and iron spent, and let's place our track going straight through the guts of it here. All right, yellow is the top of the pile at the back of the line, so he's going to take another go. Now, I think he'd like to continue building the train line, but it might be a bit expensive for the moment, so do we purchase some military? Now, let's gather up some gold. So we're going to spend 1 of his action points on 1 of our 2 gathering locations, and let's pick up all that gold in that far-reaching mountain line there. That costs 1 unit of time. We keep going. Now greens go. All right, let's get prepared for some combat. I'm thinking we would like to get a bit of an idea of what we're up against. So let's get some help. This costs just 1 unit of time. And we're going to take Agent Davies here. Reveal 2 old 1 tiles of your choice and take 2 victory points. All right, so here are our victory point tokens there. Good start. Now, do we want to know what's around us, or do we want to find out what we're up against in the greater level 3 old ones? Ooh. In the interest of showing cool stuff on camera, let's check out these level 3 monstrosities. So let's go our 2 closest ones here. Number 1, oh, it's Cthulhu himself. Oh, but that's great because now everyone knows where he is. Diverge on that location, am I right? Okay, now that we know he's there, let's see a little bit closer to home. I'd like to know what this level 2 is around here, because he could get pretty nasty later. Oh, and it's a temple. These guys can be a big pain in the butt. Here we have a Dagmar Kraus. You may double up on the placement of 1 type of farm. Green goes again. Let's do some gathering. Our first of 2 gather actions, let's take the gold floating around down there. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to purchase some artillery so I can get rid of that temple. I know they are effective against it because on the back of the rulebook, we can see down here, temples, infantry are good, and artillery is good as well. All right, that moves him down there, and we're into yellow's turn now. Now, I'm thinking yellow would like to start specializing in something, get some sort of a military on board, and I'm thinking that the armored car could be the way to go. So before we go ahead and do that, let's actually purchase a helper. It'll cost us 1 unit of time, and we're going to grab Alexander Proust. Your armored car units can take 3 damage before they are eliminated. That is going to make sure once he purchases those units, he's going to have a little bit more staying power. All right, that means red is up next, and he too wants to get onto the military side of things. So let's grab that gold. Now that will move his token on top of the stack. And we draw a new personality card, and we have, who's this? A Jenny Appleseed. Flip 1 or 2 blighted farms to their productive side. Awesome. So we get to go again, and I'm thinking let's purchase some military units. We'll spend 2 of our gold to get 2 infantry. There they are. Awesome. All right, that means yellow is going to be the next player to go. And it's probably time we got a couple of those armored cars to go with Alexander Proust. Armored cars cost 3 gold, so we'll spend 1 action there, 1 unit of time, and we begin our armada. So that means we're on to green's turn now, and it's time to get some artillery. Now these guys are pretty expensive at $5 a pop, so you do want to make sure they don't die, but when you're up against the pyramid, bring nothing else except for the infantry. So we'll grab one of those right there, $5. And 1 unit of time, we get another go. What will we do with our next action? I would love to get some railway here to here so that we're in range of the temple, but that's either going to cost us a gold or an extra time. Look, I actually think there's too many things I want to do that I've already done, so I'm going to spend my time to recover all of my previously used actions. On to yellow, and I'm thinking let's initiate some combat. We attack. Now our armored cars, they have a range of 2. So we would be able to attack this one. We would be able to attack a number of the old ones on the board here. So we have a lot of options. I'm thinking let's try and get rid of some of these level 1s. And once we've got a little bit more of a force, we'll get rid of that stinky level 2 that's close by. So to get into combat, what you do is you would take any of the troops that you want to bring into battle and you'd pop them up on the expeditionary force section that is associated, and then you begin resolving combat. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to take the force that I'm attacking with and my sanity tokens over onto the board so we can see it all in its glorious color, and we'll go from there. All right, I'm thinking let's take on this level 1 here. So I'm just going to put my armored vehicle nearby and we'll flip this one, exploring the spot up. Oh, and it is a zombie. Now, after flipping a great old one, we may now choose to withdraw. For example, if we're not ready to fight whatever it is that we're fighting against. But in this case, I can see that the zombie only has 2 hit points. And according to the chart, armored cars are actually pretty good against zombies, so let's give it a shot. I'm going to put down my 3 sanity tokens, and we begin resolving combat. Now, combat is a little weird. It's sort of diceless, and it involves using our old one deck, this sucker here. Basically, what we're going to do is draw a card, and then decide if we want to push our luck or not. So let's see how we go. We flip the card, and then we look for the associated monster. As we can see here, the zombies are down here. And to the left, if we have the symbol of any of the military units that we are attacking with, the monster will suffer 1 point of damage. So here we have the armored car. We're attacking with an armored car. That means the zombie gets 1 point of damage. I put our yellow token on there to signify that we've done some damage, and then we continue resolving the card. The zombie will also deal 1 damage back and cause the loss of 1 sanity token. Now that happens regardless of whether we successfully attack or not. We assign a point of damage and we lose 1 of our sanity tokens. Now the go with sanity is that if we're ever required to lose a sanity and we have none to lose, we are immediately defeated in combat, and then any unit that has been wounded is destroyed. What we do is we place our used card in the discard pile. For space's sake, I'm just going to chuck it face up on the bottom, and we may choose to continue combat or withdraw. I'm going to continue. I like our odds. What have we got? Zombie and an armored car. Perfect stuff. That means this guy is dead. That was way too easy. So we would assign our 2nd point of damage. That's enough to kill him. So we get to take this token back home to our player card, and that signifies that we now have 1 victory point towards the end of the game. Awesome stuff. Now, after finishing combat, we would heal up any of our military units because we were victorious, and that is that. All right, so now it is Red's go, and in the interest of speeding things up a little bit to show you all the exciting stuff, I'm just going to have 1 more turn with Red, and then we're going to wake Cthulhu up. How's that? Yeah. So for Red's go, we're going to do something that I probably wouldn't recommend doing right now, but we're going to make a farm. I will reiterate, this is not a good call right now, but let's do it anyway, because we might get to see some cool stuff with it. So I'm going to use an action point and I may place up to one farm of each type. That means if I had the means, I could go ahead and place all 3 of these tokens down. Now we do have some restrictions for placing farm tokens. We actually have to have railway access. So that would move red player on top, they'd have another go. But for the purposes of all of this, let's just move these time tokens down just a little past Cthulhu. Now, as soon as all players are past Cthulhu's markers there, he is going to wake up, which means we'll be activating him using the same rules as any player action. He only ever moves 1 space at a time. Boom, like that. For every space he moves, we're going to draw and resolve some movement. But because we've hit one of the light spaces on the track here, we're first going to resolve a Revelations card. So we're going to draw the top one here. We're in the phase 1, and we have Assassination. Remove the 2 rightmost personality cards from the display and draw replacements. That means players have left their helpers out there for too long, and they are goners. For us right now, General Takanishi and Alonzo Castro, gone. And our 2 replacements, Donald McDonald and Kitchener. Next, we're going to resolve our movement. The way this works is we'll take 2 cards, one after the other, and we'll have a look at all of the great old ones in the middle. If there are any with the white circle that are on the board, they are going to move towards the closest farm or the closest port. In this case, if we have any Shoggoth or Migos on the board, they would move. We don't currently. Maybe we should fix that. We'll fix that in the next round. So no movement there. We go to the next one. It would be Migos and Loyalists. No movement at all. Nice. So with that done, we move the space another point forward, and that means another 2 cards for movement get resolved. 1 and 2. Aha! Cthulhu is moving. Now the closest player structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 away from green, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep, 7 away from red, he is going to move down. Straight down for that matter. So at this point we get a little bit scared because the toughest monster in the game is on its way. Let's go ahead and resolve the second one, and wouldn't you know it, it is another Cthulhu moving forward, this time standing atop his temple. Alright, he's still having goes, so we move him forward onto another white space, another Revelation card. This one, reveal the old one in the lowest numbered hex, then take a personality card in player order. So this is actually going to benefit some of the players. This is where the numbers on the hexes come into play. These little ones in the bottom left-hand side. So if we had an old one in space 1, we would resolve it. In space 2, we would resolve it. 3 is the lowest one we have in our setup. So let's go ahead and bring that up. We have a zombie. At this point, thanks to our cards, each player would get to take one of the personality cards. So let's just go 1, 2, and 3. We'll dish them out and get back into it. Finally, we resolve the movement again. So another 2 cards. What do we got? Zombies, Amigos, and Loyalists. We do have a zombie on the board, and he is equally close to the yellow player and the green player. So to resolve his direction, we are going to use a randomizer found on these old one cards. We've got direction number 4 going anti-clockwise. So we can see down here that 4 is straight on down. So not quite, so that's not actually going to take him any closer, but if we go anti-clockwise around, we have 3, and he is going to be just that 1 step closer down here. All right, that's the first card. Let's resolve the next one. Cthulhu, oh my goodness, jumps down off his temple, heading south towards green. This is bad. All right, let's get going with red. He's not got much going on at the moment, just a couple of infantry troops, but we are going to spend an action cube and just 1 time unit, and we are going to attack that level 2 one in the north. Let's flip him over, and we have a loyalist. Now, infantry are supposedly good against the loyalists, so let's actually see how we go here. Although, probably don't recommend this attempt. But it is push your luck, so we've got our sanity tokens. I've got our units stacked up. Let's give this a shot. All right, first card out of the banks. We have our loyalist down here. He will do damage to any airships if we have airships. We don't, no worries. And if he was on a train track and we could hit him with a train, we would. Unfortunately, no go. Do we choose to continue the combat? Yes, we do. Let's keep going. All right. Our loyalist deals 1 damage, receiving none. So we're going to place 1 damage cube on top of our infantry there. Let's continue on though. Here we go. Infantry dealing 1 point of damage in there. Nice work, Red. Although, he's going to deal 1 damage straight back. Now, despite the fact that we've brought 2 units along, we cannot split up our cubes here. So this second point of damage is actually going to take out our infantry. Let's keep going, shall we? Next one. Oh, Loyalist deals 1 damage. I think we should withdraw. So what happens here is our point of damage will stay on the unit there. But we can take our infantry, even though they've got some damage, and we can take them home, healing them up, living to fight another day. Now, Yellow would love to build his tracks over here to sort of head Cthulhu off at the pass, but guess what? There are a ton of old ones in the way, and you can't build railway track into a space that contains an old one. So, we're going to have to fight our way through. Now, this being our second action on the attack, this is actually going to cost us a gold, but we need to get there as quick as we can. Now, our armored cars have a range of 2, so let's go ahead and try and take out this level 1 old one. We'll flip him over, and lo and behold, we have nothing, just a kangaroo. So, that's kind of it for us there. That brings us to Green's activation, and boy, oh boy, is this going to be tough. See, Green's only got artillery, and actually artillery's pretty good against Cthulhu, but there is a super weapon that we just have to take advantage of, and that is the train. Now, the armored train has 0 range, which means it can't attack away from the rails. And of course, I just mentioned you can't actually build rails into old one spaces, so you've kind of got to lure them in. We know Cthulhu's going to come straight down towards, so it's probably worth building another set of tracks. 1 action and 2 units of time. We lose an iron and we lose a coal. We're going to build our tracks here and here. Now, the only reason I'm doing this is so we can potentially get a bit of gold before Cthulhu rocks up, although I don't like our odds. Back to Yellow we go. All right, he spent too many actions, so let's spend 1 unit of time to clear that action board, bringing us over to Red. Let's have another little bit of combat. Let's try and deal with this level 1 nearby. Yeah, we've only got 1 infantry, and yeah, it's going to cost us a gold to do it, but what else are we going to do? All right, we send our infantry over, and we're taking on, a temple. Now, this one in particular has a ton of hit points, 6 in total against our 2. Well, we could give it a shot. Let's see if we can land at least 1 damage before running away. First card. Temple's down the very bottom, deals 1 point of damage to sanity. So we lose 1 of those tokens. 2 to go. Let's keep going. If we had any airships, we would deal 2 damage to that. Oh, that would have been a nice investment. Let's keep going. Here we go. Our infantry deals 1 damage and we lose a point of sanity. But at least we've made a mark. Let's keep going. 1 point of damage. Let's not lose our infantry just yet. Let's run back home. And that brings us to Cthulhu's turn. What's he got in store for us now? Firstly, we move his time tracker marker 1 space. He's not on a lit space, so we're just going to resolve movement. 2 cards. First one. Only Shoguts will move. Nothing on the board relating to that, so let's go to the next one. Migos will move. None of them either. So we're kind of safe. But he is going to move again, and we are going to have to resolve another Revelations card. Now, we've been in the 1 revelations and they've been pretty tame so far, so let's bump it up to a level 3 one. What do you say? Here we go. Reveal the old one in the lowest number hex and draw 6 cards for its movement, and then all players may retrieve 2 action cubes. That's hectic. So in this case, we'll be revealing this guy here. He's in space number 4, and it's another zombie. And now we're going to be drawing 6 cards for its movement, and only its movement. So even though there are other zombies on the board, they're not going to react to these cards. So, nothing there for 1. Nothing there for 2. Nothing there for 3. Here we go. We got 1 for 4. And he's going to move towards the closest structure being... Oh, moved the wrong one. He's going to move towards yellow's port. What's that? 2 to go? Uh-oh. Another movement. And then last one. Oh, we might actually get to see the combat here. Yes, we do. The zombie makes it to the port, which means the port is under attack. Now, whenever a port becomes under attack, you may defend with all units that you have in your barracks. In this case, yellow has an armored car, which might work. Let's find out. All right, first card. Where have we got? Infantry would deal damage. Oh boy, but he's going to deal 1 damage and 1 sanity token. 1 and 2. Next card. Here we go. Our armored car deals 1 damage, but boy, it gets 1 back and another sanity token too. We are so lucky that yellow chose to pick up this helper, because that gives him 1 extra hit point, which he desperately needs. Because if he loses this battle and the zombies take the town of just north of Walamata? I don't know that place. Well, if we lose, that is game over and we head to scoring immediately. Let's flip it. Oh, nothing from zombies. Infantry. Oh, why don't we have infantry? Nothing. Nothing. Airships, no. Yes, we make it. Our armored cars deal the remaining point of damage that we need. Yellow will take this tile, being their 2nd kill of the game, and their armored car returns home happy and healthy. Those level 3 revelation cards are mental. All right, with that done, we've still got to resolve the movement from this particular round. So 2 cards, and Cthulhu's going to move. That's bad. Shoggoths and any, the colonel looking guys, what did I say he was? A loyalist, that's right. He's going to move towards the closest thing, which is going to be the farm in red. Oh, 1 more card. The loyalists as well. The loyalists again. And what he does is he's going to move directly into the spot with the farm, and he immediately blightens that farm, which means it's no longer counting as 2 victory points for the red player, but it's now counting as 1 victory point for Cthulhu himself. All right, so I actually think we were able to see pretty much all of the gameplay elements just in those first few turns. I mean, yeah, we had to turn up the heat a little bit and really disadvantaging our players, but I think it worked out kind of well. The game would continue until all players have passed the 53 marker down here, and then we would wait for Cthulhu to catch up. So everything would be moving, and we would be resolving all of those revelations cards until he too has passed the 53 marker. At this point, we'd score the game, as I mentioned before. Players would get victory points for non-blighted farms, phosphate, personality cards if they stated on there, and victory points for any old ones they had destroyed or had taken part in destroying. And then Cthulhu would score up for every old one still on the board, gaining victory points as indicated on the token, double victory points for any unrevealed tokens, and then an extra point for every blighted farm. Wow. Honestly, this guy is tough to beat. So with all that done, with all that said, let's head out of the playthrough section and we'll have a chat about this game. Let's go. And there we have it, guys and gals. One of the strangest games you're ever going to see. We have AuZtralia. Now this is, as you saw, a bunch of Euro mechanics tied in together with all of these kind of randomizers that still don't decide to use any strict random chance stuff. There is always probability that you can figure out. I don't want to go there though just yet, right? Let's talk about the Euro mechanics and we'll go through. So we have a little bit of resource management, right? You start with a couple of resources, you expand by spending those resources to pick up more resources, but in turn, you control more of the board. And for a competitive game, that means you control the resources so your opponents can't get to them. I didn't really get into the competitive nature of this, but we'll catch up to that shortly. Not only that, it allows you to reach further into the outback of Australia, so you can actually hit the level 2 and level 3 old ones with an attack, all right? That's the whole point of this rail system. And it's pretty simple. You spend some time, you spend the iron, you spend the coal, and you place the tiles. Easy as. If your tiles happen to cross areas that have resources in them, you can use the gather actions to take a group of resources in. As far as the Euro-ness goes of this game, it's pretty stock standard, right? There is nothing really special tying this part of the game together. And that's fine because it's not really the decorative part of the game. I think these mechanisms are really just there to support the Ameritrash kind of thing. And you know what I mean by Ameritrash, random, lots of things. But anyway, but I think that is the highlight of this game. The exploration, delving into that unknown and trying to come up with a force that can match this, right? To me, to warrant sort of chatting about a game on this channel here, there's got to be something special that either brought it to my attention or has inspired me to bring it to you guys. And I think it's the theme. I also think it is the combat mechanism, and I think that not everyone is going to like this combat mechanism. If you watched the video just then and you got a little agitated because I was picking up that deck too many times and we were just like, oh, what's that do? What's that do? What's that do? I did that on purpose. I wanted to bring as much combat into this video as I could because that and the resolution behind the old one deck is a huge part of this game. I think it's something that makes this game special, right? But I understand that it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I wanted to drive it home that this is a deciding factor in whether or not you're actually going to like this game. If you're not a fan of that card resolution, leave it. That's fine. Even if you're into Cthulhu, I can think of a number of other games that will take your fancy that don't include something like this. Now, I find it really kind of amazing that this little deck can handle any number of scenarios that this game can put together. You want to attack with one unit? Fine, this deck can handle it. You want to take an entire run of 5 units into this battle? Yes, it can handle it with the same amount of ease that a single unit piece of combat can do. And I find that astonishing kind of thing, right? And not only that, but it will also handle which old ones are going to move. And if it's an undetermined direction, it will tell you which direction they're going to go. It is a very smart piece of deck. Now, I've only really played this game at the solo and 2-player mark. I've played 3-player multi-hands just to sort of get a vibe for the higher player counts, and I will say that there is a lot of tension to be found there, and it's pretty dang good, especially for that semi-co-op experience. And yeah, very excited to see that played out with actual people. But that's not to say, in fact, I will go out and say that I really did enjoy the 2-player mark. Yeah, it might have felt a little multiplayer solitaire, but the 2-player mark provides a lot of fun and probably a more thematic experience because, hey, you get a chance to concentrate on the real enemy, the waves of old ones, and Cthulhu himself, okay? There's none of this bickering along the sidelines, although I will say it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to screw with other people in that sort of mode. Gonna love it. Now, as far as people enjoying this game, it's kind of got its own weird piece of middle ground because if you're not into engine building and resource management, that's a big chunk of this game, albeit a supporting part of this game, but it is still such an important part that if you don't enjoy those mechanics, It's not strictly chaotic enough to ignore that stuff. You do actually have to plan, and you do need to use a bit of forethought to get through the game. That being said, if you're not into the random stuff, this thing is probably going to do your head in. And I'll tell you what, it is going to kill you if you want to sit there and work out the percentages of success and failure. Because as we're going through that old one deck, you're throwing them in the discard pile. And as you go through it, you might, discard 2 infantry wounds against a monster that you're about to come up against with infantry. Drawing those cards, you know that your chances of success are reduced because you've seen them out of the deck and they haven't even helped you. And so if you're analysis paralysis prone or statistically bound when you're making choices, far out, I would not go near this game because it will drive you mental. But then again, it probably does lend to the strategy, whereas if you see a couple of cards come out that would benefit your own troops against a monster you're hunting, probably don't do that this round, yeah? I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird, and it's special enough that it has become one of my favorite games of last year, right? But whether or not you're going to get into this thing, yeah. If you want to try something new and you like, a little bit of Euro stuff and you like a little bit of randomness, by all means, get into it. It's kind of hard to recommend purely on one element or the other. You have to be kind of a fan of both. I'm a fan of both, so I enjoy this game very much. And of course, it's Cthulhu in my country. Of course I'm going to love it, right? Okay, that's about it for this one, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you found it a little bit informative or something like that. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and do all the things that you guys can do to help support this channel and help it grow. But besides that, guys, we are done. My name's Michael. This is Bits Aboard. We'll catch you next time.